We are coming at you live with session 73 of our Drown Gods campaign. Let's get started. As always, everyone, please reset your hero point pools to 1. And there are no Akalupu notes today, so we will skip past that. And who would like to give the recap for an extra hero point? I know it has been a minute.
If you can tell me where we stopped, like where we began last time, I can try.
So we started last time shortly after you guys had defeated the sharks that you ran into on your way to the city, which I have, as promised, actually named finally.
Nice. Okay. I think I remember. So we finished that, and then we were going to where it was a little bit deeper and darker, and we couldn't really see super well.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said that the city was coming to us.
Yeah, it should be here soon.
Like, yeah, and we were all like it's not how cities work. And then this like giant semi-luminescent, because of like the city on the back, crab like appears, and she's like, quick, everybody get on, and we're like, so we all like try to go swim on, and Ip does not make it. He gets kind of washed away by the curtains a little bit, but everybody else makes it on. And so then we get on and we start heading toward the city, and then like partway up toward the entrance, which are like these giant pillar thingies with like guards around it. We like notice that Ip is gone, and so we Manawanui leaves like a talking rune by the gate in hopes that he'll find it, after much discussion of us trying to be like, oh, we should go get him, and Delphine's like, no, we should just go to the center, and then we can kind of see like if he's not there, but he'll probably make it because he's a smart boy.
Well, mostly she was just saying that, like, first of all, that you should have picked some place to meet up if you got split up. That's just like, now that we're all used to having cell phones, that's not a thing we think about anymore, but that used to be a thing. Like, you remember that from back in the day, Anna, whenever we traveled. Yeah. And then the other thing was that she was saying that didn't say you should go to the center, but that you should find some sort of landmark closer to the edge that you would presumably congregate toward.
Yeah. But then, anyways, we cut back to Ip, and Ip kind of gets met with some a little bit sketchy looking fish people who have a bit of a Cajun accent.
It was it was a hammerhead land shark.
Yeah, hammerhead land shark who seems to be very interested in Ip, and may have made several comments that made Ip very uncomfortable and fear for his safety.
Or at least fear for his continued freedom.
Yes.
Some very slavery vibes.
Yeah, but they're heading to the right direction. They're heading toward the city. And they kind of go there, and then they're trying to make their way in, and the rest of the group was able to get in past the guards super easy, or well, fairly easy, because the guards recognized Dolphine. But Ip and his sketchy-looking companion have a little more trouble, and Ip kind of has to try to lie his way through.
Which he does not do well at.
But the hammerhead shark helps him out. So
yeah, if you have like a +0 to your deception.
Correct. 0 deception, 0 diplomacy, 0 intimidation.
Yeah. So luckily, quote unquote,
just
luckily
don't talk
at least,
to this man.
Your friend got you in.
Yeah.
Even though you are also trying, Ip also tried to like use magic to signal the guards that he was being kidnapped, and the guards were not buying it.
Yeah.
Or they weren't buying it so much as like they just didn't really
Didn't care.
That's actually very true.
Yeah. But anyway, so he manages to make it in, and luckily, very soon manages to see the rest of the group, and we all get back together, and we're all super happy. We start heading toward the center, and Mono Inui gets a bit distracted with a jewelry store that sells magical things, and ends up buying a pair of earrings.
No.
Akalupa bought earring.
Yeah, Mono Inui bought
A pair of goggles.
a pair of goggles.
Clarity goggles, to be
Goggles,
specific.
Jinx.
Tinfoil.
That's it. And then Akalupu is like, oh, I'm gonna try to get something too, because when in Rome. And Akalupu gets a pair of earrings that are basically make it so you can have the rune abilities from a weapon in one hand transfer to the other, and it's called
Doubling rings.
Doubling Rings. There we go. I was trying to scroll down and find it, but I couldn't find it in time.
Don't worry. I only know because I did actually put it in my notes.
And they look really cool because one's like silver/steel and the other one's like a fancy gold one. And I think that was it, right?
Yeah. I think so. Did it just get glossed over when y'all Ip saw Dolphine and then y'all came over and scared off old man Gumbo? Or was I just not paying attention?
No, I think I just skipped that part because I said we all met back up together.
Okay.
And we're all happy to be together again.
Yeah, that's basically what happened was Ip saw Dolphine, used message to get her attention. The group ran over, and old man Gumbo took one look at Mono Inui and was like, "Oh, you do have some friends that's got some muscle on them. Well, have a nice day, y'all."
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, that more or less catches us up. Go ahead and give yourself the extra hero point. And yeah, we will continue from where we left off. So you guys are still at the bazaar in front of, I do not remember what random name I came up for the merchant that you are talking to, but the kind of rotund older fish lady who's been selling you the jewelry. You are kind of in the middle of the bazaar, which is kind of a ring about 2/3 of the way toward the center of the city. So all around you, there's, the hustle and bustle of movement. The actual stalls and tents are packed in much closer than they would be in a normal city because there are no streets. Everyone just kind of, swims above the stalls. And a lot of the stalls are kind of like stacked even on, different structures, kind of like massive corals is what they look like, even though they probably aren't actually coral. So you'll have, shops often 2 or 3 deep as you can swim into them. It makes a rather confusing maze, though luckily you can always just go up and get your bearings again. And yeah, you guys, was anyone else in the group tempted by the jewelry, or are you perhaps perusing elsewhere?
Yes, I was supposed to think about this in the 2 or 3 weeks since we met last time. Aw.
Because everyone did bring some things to trade with. Akalupu still has a couple of rocks left. Mono Inui has traded everything that she brought. 'Cause she brought the pterodactyl skull and the pink lube, so I believe she's out of stuff.
Let's not forget about the real MVP, the pink lube.
Exactly, that's what really clinched it. And then Ip, did you bring anything? I feel like you didn't.
No, I didn't. Also,
Oh
Oh no, you did. You brought the coin, but Old Man Gumbo
But it
stole
got
it from you.
lifted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to shop anyway. I got my head on a swivel.
Right. You might
Too distracted by my close encounter with slavery or being whichever one that turned out to be.
Yeah, go ahead and give me a perception check.
Oh no.
Perception check. Oh, that's a good one. 29.
All right. So as you're looking around, you're not spotting anything that seems particularly threatening. But one thing you do notice is that a good chunk of the people going about, and working the stalls and, swimming through the aisles and whatever else, probably about a third of them are wearing these identical metallic necklaces. They have a variety of different colored gems set in the front. And I guess I should say I don't know. It's like a choker, I guess. Like it's fairly fitted to the neck. And the actual metal part is more or less identical across all of them in kind of a burnished grayish metal. But then the gem in the front of it is different colors.
Oh, I better ask Dolphine about that. What's she up to? Is she shopping or?
Dolphin is kind of like floating behind Mono Anui with her hands behind her back, trying to look like she's not. She's clearly trying to keep her mouth shut to not tell him if he's doing anything stupid, because she doesn't want to embarrass him. As Akaluku is trying to trade for this jewelry.
If Mono Anui's underselling her pink lube, she needs to know. She needs to get
Does
maximum value.
Dolphine have a necklace?
Dolphine doesn't. Well, she does. She would be wearing it. Hers is definitely not one of these metal necklaces, though. Her necklace is somewhat similar to like what y'all, your tribe would have, where it's a string that has a variety of different shells and shiny stones and stuff attached to it. You do know that one of the stones is a homeward stone, because that's what she used to find the city here.
I am gonna get Dolphine's attention. Hey, Dolphine.
What's up?
What are all those necklaces that people are wearing?
Which ones?
Seems like a lot of people have these metal necklaces on.
Oh, you mean the collars? And she kind of gestures toward one of the people wearing those necklaces.
A collar? What does that mean?
Well, slaves wear those.
I fucking knew it.
Oh no.
Da da da.
That was almost me. Do the different stones mean anything? Is that like how valuable they are?
No, actually that tells you how long they have before they're going to be freed. So she kind of like, she points to one, she's like, see that red one over there? That means that they've got 10 years left. And then she goes through a variety of other numbers up to, or down to 1 year.
So how does one end up as a slave?
Well, it depends. Some people actually sell themselves into slavery for a variety of different reasons. There was one story I heard of a famous, I wish I could remember words, not a politician, philosopher. Thank you, Brain. A famous philosopher who sold himself into slavery for a wealthy family to tutor their sons for a number of years. Some people do it because of debts, but the majority of them come from raids.
Oh, wow. So taken by force.
Yeah, I mean, well, most of the wealth here is. You can't exactly, harvest or grow much on the back of a crab.
Guess that makes sense. You don't think we're in danger of becoming slaves, do you?
Oh no. Now, like I said, as long as you don't, get challenged to a duel, once you're inside the city limits, fighting isn't allowed outside of official challenges. And
Okay, good.
unless you enter the city as a slave or choose to become one, they can't enslave you. Now, once you're outside of the city limits, that is where bets are somewhat off. That's why I warned you all to be careful out there.
Wow, it's a good thing old man Gumbo didn't fight me out there.
Who,
Probably would
the
not have
shark
stood a
man?
chance. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if he had tried, we would have found you, don't worry. You have to be officially registered. It's not like you can, be made a slave in secret. The magic in the collars is very tightly controlled.
I guess that's good. There's magic in the collars?
Yeah, that's how it tracks how many years they have left. And depending on, various factors, you can have years taken away. If a slave does something bad, they can have years added, but it can never go over 10.
That seems
And-
reasonable.
Yeah, and a lot of owners will just free their slaves for different reasons. Usually because, they ended up getting married and decided they liked each other a little bit.
Well, this is one crazy culture. We don't have enough interaction with other people to have any concept of slaves. We just all work together in our village.
Hmm. Yeah, I suppose that would make sense. You didn't have pirates or raiders that you had to worry about, though? I guess the cocoa biters, but I think they just eat people usually.
No, and even the cocoa biters never made it to our village because there was a guardian protecting us.
That's the previous generation.
Oh, dang.
Mostly
yeah.
the cocoa
So we
biters,
had
you had
some
killed
cocoa
them.
biters,
You had
but
killed
they
the
were
cocoa
afraid of
biter
us more than
matriarch.
we were afraid of them.
Yeah, exactly. Their numbers weren't so bad because, well, they had gotten bad, but then you guys early in this generation killed the cocoa biter matriarch, so they shouldn't be as much of a
Right.
threat for a while.
Oh, I remember.
I remember. Yeah, your island has, what did you say, just a few hundred people on the entire thing?
If that.
Yeah, that's very different. There are thousands just here in Darhan. Darhan. I'll put that in chat. Like I said, I finally did actually name the city.
I like it. I don't think our village had a name. It was just the village.
Yeah. There are some smaller tribes of, aquatic creatures that I've heard of that are similar, where they don't really need names. They don't go very far, so they just call it, the place that we live and where we hunt and the place we don't go, stuff like that.
Simpler. This is too crazy for me.
That's rich coming from someone in a flying boat. I think you'll get used to it. After all, why did you leave if it wasn't to, see more of the world?
Well, I kind of got a holy quest from the Divine Mother.
Oh. Well, don't you think she would want you to learn more about the world around you and spread the good news, so to speak?
I guess that's a good point. That could be the purpose behind this whole endeavor. I don't deign to know the intentions of the Divine Mother. I just do as I'm told.
Well, if she's as powerful as you've described, that seems wise. I mean, someone who created our entire world and is... Have you told her about the whole thing where this the Great Mother is, theoretically going to destroy the world?
Nope. And I don't think she ever asked about my religion. But
you guys
oh
had
boy.
talked about the Great Mother, because there was one point where you brought it up kind of casually, and I was like, to keep the conversation moving, we're not going to play this entire thing out, but we'll assume that you explained the gist to her.
Oh yeah, if that's the case, then I, did a sermon. She was tired of me speaking by the end of that conversation.
Fair enough. All right, so Mako, you've had some time. Have you decided if there's any stalls that look interesting to you, or do you want to keep moving for now?
Yeah, the thing is, I feel like I have good stuff to trade, but I also feel like I'm like pretty useful in a fight. Like I'm feeling confident about my abilities.
Yep. There's always foodstuffs. I think how much food do you have left on your ship? Like, you have 3 slots left, so you've eaten about half of your food so far. So you could trade for food. Repair materials, you've just went through that giant storm, and the boat has definitely taken quite a bit of damage. Nothing that can't be repaired, and especially with Burn Bright there to kind of like, put things together MacGyver style, you're probably fine, but some more materials for that wouldn't hurt. If there's any ammunition that you want for the boat's weapons or for yourself. If you just want to get a hold of rare materials, there's tons of stuff down here that you don't have access to, especially all of these metallic objects that you've been seeing. Your tribe has not really figured out metalworking yet, so those are completely new.
Okay, I am concerned about our level of food because we don't know how close we are. I mean, if we miss the island or whatever that we're going to, we could be on the water for a while. So I think we should try and trade for some food at least.
All right. So you go, wandering a bit further. I'm assuming we're staying as a group, so we'll just assume everyone is still together.
Yeah, Mako's not interested in getting split up again.
Yeah, as much of as a challenge as it is, sometimes with the way that everything moves around and water currents and whatnot, we'll assume that you guys all manage it. Do you guys want to have established a meeting point in case that there is a situation like last time?
Sure. Go ahead, Abe.
I was just gonna say, in answer to Thomas's question, we could just set the Grand Bazaar.
The Grand Bazaar is
Or
massive.
I guess what we could do is we could set that one rock.
You could. That's outside city limits, would be the only concern there.
Yeah, but I think it's the only place we actually have like all of us have reference for.
I mean, if you guys just want to say that one really big purple tent or something like that, I think that's perfectly fair. Mostly, I just want to have established that there is an established meetup point in case we get split up again.
Mono and Who's going to point to a very large purple tent and say, "That large purple tent."
and then, well, anyway. That works.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Purple tent it is. All right, so you continue to go through the bazaar a bit further. Presumably you've told Dolphine what you're looking for, so she can kind of lead you toward the right area. And you eventually move away from kind of the craft goods and area where you just were through another section that seems to be more mercantile. They've got, clothing of various types and descriptions.
Is that one?
Some household goods and things along those lines, cushions and whatnot. I guess, I don't know if those would work underwater, whatever the underwater equivalent is. And then eventually you make your way toward more food area. So some of it is, prepared foods, lots of different cuts of fish and that sort of things. Plenty of very fresh sushi to be found here. If you want to get your squid tentacles still writhing and moving, you can do that here. You are able to eventually find some kind of like wholesale food where you're trying to buy more in bulk rather than like grab a meal immediately. So what kind of foods are you looking for? Most of it is going to be aquatic. There's, lots of fish. You can get like whole fish that are, would still keep for a while. Large variety of different plant types. Some of them are kind of like kelpy looking. Some of them are, a bit more like bulbous and, whatnot. There's fish eggs and things like that. They've got shellfish.
Well, I definitely discussed with Ip, the quartermaster, because he would know better than me. I think that I have the best and easiest stuff to be trading, but I'm not in charge of supplies. So I would discuss that with Ip, but we're all from islands, so I think that we're not afraid of seafood. That's the kind of stuff that we would be eating anyway, right? So.
Oh yeah. Now most of this at least looks vaguely familiar. Some of it is like kind of weird deep sea stuff that, you've definitely never seen before, but a lot of it is going to be pretty familiar from things that you would have been able to drag out of the ocean and eat yourselves.
Okay, well, I think that we need to be getting stuff that is durable for once we bring it onto the boat. As you said, like whole fish that would keep for a while. I mean, yeah, I don't, because we just have food written in our ship log, so yeah. I don't know what that food has been, or if we need to be worrying about it like spoiling or whatnot.
Not unless like it starts to get to the point that it's a little silly, but mostly I'm not going to make you worry about it.
Right.
Come on.
All right. So yeah, you go up to a vendor that has what appear to be tuna's a bit large because a tuna's like bigger than you are. We'll say mackerel. They've got like mackerel and some sailfish, and they've got a couple of bins that are full of like different shellfish, so like clams and mollusks and the like.
All right, greetings. I'm interested in trading with you for your fish.
You have a good eye. Only the freshest fish here. So fresh, I practically killed them this morning.
Practically, or did you?
Well, I killed some of them this morning. Well, I didn't, but they were killed this morning.
I have a lot of magic elixirs. Is that something I could tempt you with?
Oh, perhaps. What do these magic elixirs do?
Let's take a look. I have, shoot. Yeah, bottled lightning, which might be good for fishing. Let me... Trying to figure out my Hero Lab stuff. Okay, yeah. I have a Cheetah's Elixir, which adds speed for a duration. I have Bomber's Eye, which lets you pinpoint your foes for the next 5 minutes. Oh, that probably won't be helpful to anybody but me. But yeah, I feel like the Cheetah's Elixir is pretty hot and spicy.
Oh, yes, I could definitely trade those.
And I have a comprehension elixir, which opens your mind to the potential of the written word.
Ah,
After drinking this elixir, you can understand any words you read so long as they are written in a common language.
I never read. That stuff is for nerds. Do you mind if I check them real quick for authenticity?
Of course, take a look. I also have an elixir of life, which is just your catch-all.
Is that just
Increase
like
to your hit
healing?
points.
Oh, temporary hit points. Nice. All right, so he kind of like, looks at him, shakes him, pops the cork off one, sticks a finger in, licks it. Very, very carefully, not to like let the water into the bottles. He says, yes, these do seem to be authentic. We can certainly do a trade for these. How much are you looking to get a hold of? I think, given these cheetah elixirs, I could give you, I don't know, and we'll just say he will give you one storage slot worth of food for 2 potions.
Okay, deal. And he's mostly interested in the cheetah's elixir?
He's willing to trade as much of them as you want to. So if you want to trade 6 potions for all 3 food slots, you can do that, or however much you're looking to do.
This works.
Yeah. Let's at least trade my 2 cheetah's elixirs for 1 slot of food.
All right, I'll go ahead and update sheet. Food. Oh, caps lock is on. There we go.
It's not just food, it's food!
All capital food.
And then...
And of course, he'll let you do the exact same thing to his where, poke and prod the fish and decide which ones you think are the freshest and tastiest looking.
Of course. I'm slapping that mackerel like it's my job. Which is how I assume you check fish.
I mean, that's certainly how he did it. It's like fresh as the day, fresh as the daisy, and slaps the fish.
Great. And then let me trade 1 of my elixir of life and 1 bottled lightning if he'll take it.
Yeah, he will.
Because bottled lightning is pretty volatile under the ocean, but I feel like a fisherman is exactly the kind of person who would want it.
Oh yes, I'm sure I can find some fishermen who would be interested.
Deal. Okay, great. So I'm trading 1 bottled lightning and 1 elixir of life for another slot of food.
These are extremely, what's the word? Pure as well. Most, alchemists down here have trouble not, letting too much seawater into the mix.
Yeah, what can I say? I was trained by the best.
Oh, indeed, indeed. That much is clear.
Anyway, before he can ask too many more questions about where I was trained or how I got these, I'm going to be like, thanks for the fish, and dip away.
Yes. Come back to Big Al's Mackerel anytime. All right, so you're able to get back to the group. We'll assume that you got some sort of like net bag filled with the stuff so you can carry it.
Great.
And did you only get fish, or did you also pick up some of the like the shellfish? Not that it really matters, just
Yeah. Sure, some shellfish. That makes sense.
Sweet. All right. You got like a variety of seafoods in there. You can make yourself a nice little seafood gumbo.
Perfect.
Oh.
All right. Any other shopping people want to do?
I assume Mono Anui's, that's all that's been happening while Mono Anui's been engaged with the gem merchant.
Sure. We can go with that. I was thinking that you guys had kind of like moved along, but if it works
Yeah, he
better
told this
for
whole
whatever
story
you're...
about all the different shops that we were passing as we were leaving from that area to this area.
This is true.
But if for some reason you need to do something before you leave the gem merchant, that is fine.
No, not particular. Mono Anui's just going to be looking around at the different shops, keeping an eye out for opportunities.
All right. So you, on the way here, you passed an area that had kind of like general mercantile goods, so like home goods and clothing and that sort of thing. A lot of their clothing is, similar to yours, where it's made out of like, hides and whatnot. Had you guys ever gotten weaving? I know you got ropes. Did you get weaving? You did. Okay. So there's also various fabrics, but that's nothing too special compared to what you would have at home as well. Even though there are a variety of the fabrics in colors you've never seen before, and if you happen to brush against a silk, I'm sure that would be a bit of an experience. And then after that, you came through like the food section. So there's a section of like prepared foods, which is basically like, get your piping hot bowl of, I don't know, fish sticks here. And then further in where you are currently is more like bulk goods food.
Mono Anui is also going to be like fiddling with her goggles.
Yeah, you've noticed that the goggles make it so that you can see details even better than normal, especially at distances. Did they give you anything special underwater? I don't think so. I think it was just like a bonus to perception checks.
They give me for bonus perception checks, and then they have a effect that I think once a day, I can see through certain types of illusions.
Yeah. Also, your goggles should be lesser, not moderate.
I don't know what they are.
You set them as moderate, but they should be lesser. So it's the basic ones that give you. Where does it say?
There's that. Is that in armor?
Plus 1 item bonus to visual perception checks.
Where do I switch that out? Is that in?
You'll need to delete the current set and put in a different one. You can't change the level on them, I don't think.
Edit. Oh. That's sell for 0. And then. I should
a little bit of a different value proposition when you're going from something that's worth like 300 gold to like over 2,000 gold.
Yeah, 425 to 2,400.
Yeah,
just a little. There we go.
So your skull and pink loop would not have bought you moderate clarity goggles.
Here's my questions. So when I click, I don't see a difference between the two when I'm clicking between them.
So if you scroll down on the description, there's a section that shows like there's the bigger description that shows the basic stats, and then below it has a section that says moderate plus 2 item bonus, greater plus 3 item bonus.
Cool. Okay, that makes sense.
So that's the difference. The
I
active ability
some sort of,
is the same.
some sort of bonus when it comes to like illusions. Looking like I have to use an ability, right?
Yes, so that's your active ability where once per day you can focus on your environment and the creatures around you to see them as they really are. The GM rolls a secret counteract check, and your perception bonus against any illusion effects created by 3rd level or lower spell of a creature of 8th level or lower, etc. So yeah, it can help you pierce illusions, but that is a once per day effect that you have to manually activate.
I see. That makes sense.
I definitely foresee sometimes this going like, okay, I use my clarity goggles, and Thomas is like, okay, he's still just a guy.
Right?
Is he really?
I look at the side of the mountain. Do I see a door? No, it's just the side of a mountain.
The suspicious side of a mountain. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But perhaps because of your goggles, you notice a bit before everyone else does. You notice a large column, if it can be called that, of tiny figures. They're very far away from you, approaching the city. There seems to be a pretty large number of them, probably several hundred.
Yeah.
And they're coming from outside the city?
Correct. They are coming from outside the city and more above it. You guys were pretty at level with the back of the crab when you approached. These people seem to be approaching from much more above.
All right. Mononoi's gonna signal. First, she's gonna. Yeah, Mononoi. She's gonna grab her buddies. I'm like, guys, got incoming large columns of not very friendly looking people.
Yeah. And not that you can really tell at all. Like, they're basically, like, you can barely even tell that they're figures and not dots at this distance.
But who comes in columns? That's
Just
all
a
I'm
suspicious hoe. Yeah.
So as you start gathering people together, you hear, horns sounding around the towers on the edges of the city. And, everyone kind of looks up and you see some people pointing, but nobody seems panicked.
It's like, we're getting invaded, guys. Run for the hills.
Yeah, nobody is worried.
The show is over.
There's, a bit of a hubbub and some excitement, plenty of pointing, but nobody is like, trying to grab their most valuable objects and run away.
I want to know what Delphine thinks of this. I'm asking her, hey, what's going on, Delphine? Is this a normal occurrence? Do you have any idea what's going on?
Oh yeah, you heard the horns just a minute ago. That signals the return of a raiding party.
That's a big raiding party.
Oh yeah. And you can only see the front of it right now. Those are the warriors. Behind them, they'll be trailing all of the various loot that they've collected. And indeed, as the column continues to approach and you can see more of it through the murk of the water and, the light from the towers begins to illuminate it, you can see, do you move somewhere to get a better view, or are you kind of just like sat in the market still?
He's definitely moving to get a better view.
All right. So as you move out, and they're starting to get much closer, and you're finally starting to be able to pick out a bit of details, and you can see that in front is indeed a large column of very powerful and proud-looking mermaid warriors. Each one more chiseled than the last. And carrying various bright, flashy weapons. And adorned in shells and beads and other accoutrements. They seem to be singing in as a group as they move in toward the city. It's in a language you do not understand. I assume now that I've said that, you're immediately like, all right, comprehend languages. Or not. Okay.
Yeah, do we have to roll for that or something?
Well, I don't think anyone except Manawanui has comprehend languages.
No,
Okay,
I
that's
just
what I
gotta
thought.
find it and roll it.
I was like, that does not sound like something I'm capable of.
Oh, I guess it's not something I roll.
That's
I
a
just do it?
spell.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That's a
Yeah, I'm
spell
gonna
if you
cast
would like to
comprehend
use it.
language.
Or
I
you could
would
ask
love-
Dolphine, because presumably the language that the mermaids are singing in, or mermen, I should say. Well, I guess it's merfolk because it's both. The language the merfolk are singing is
Merlab.
probably something that Dolphine would know.
I'm still gonna do it just in case. I'll let if someone else wants to like ask, but I'm not gonna tip my hand that I can like speak their language through
See, a
this spell.
suspicious asshole.
Oh yeah.
Yes, indeed. Look, man. Sometimes rock faces are very suspicious. That's all I'm saying.
Sometimes the rocks, they just aren't rocks.
I mean, sometimes they're
true.
not.
Do you-
Have you been to the underworld?
I don't think you have. Oh, you do have comprehend languages prepared. All right, so you're gonna use
I do.
your one prepared casting of that.
Yes.
All right. So you cast comprehend languages on yourself, which, I mean, if you're trying to be subtle, I don't think it's gonna work because it's got semantic and verbal components. So it's gonna be incredibly obvious to everyone that you just cast a spell on yourself.
He also likes to
I
show
don't
off.
know what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. You just randomly
They're
cast
like,
spells
what?
on yourself all the time.
Yeah, I have Tourette's. Leave me alone.
But anyway, so
I'm
you
bullying
cast comprehend languages on yourself, and you can hear it's kind of a call and response sea shanty-esque song. Presumably, like most of these songs, its intended purpose is to help everyone keep consistent time and stay together. In this case, it would be to help, swim in tandem with each other. And it is a song about a merman who was banished from his tribe and died of loneliness as he was never able to see his true love again. So not the most cheerful of
That's cool.
songs.
Most good sea shanties are not.
Interesting.
So because Ip and Delphine were having that conversation about the slave culture, while Manawanui was purchasing things, can I assume that I was able to kind of overhear it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I want to ask her, so when you say they're coming back with their goods or the spoils of their raid or whatever, does that mean people? Because Mako is a little bit high and mighty about this whole slave thing because she comes from a small town and they would never do something like that.
Well, it depends on where they've been raiding. Sometimes it does mean that people are brought back, and sometimes, certain species are less, amenable.
Gosh.
I'm just a little bit judgy. I'm like, but not gonna actually say anything like this is wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah, Twitter hasn't been invented yet, so.
Right. She just mostly does not come from a culture that has that. So she's like, why can't we just all work together?
Right, exactly. But yeah, so as the column marches on, you do see, now behind the, front column of warriors is a second column that seems to be these massive I guess it would be kind of like the size of a school bus, roughly. But these massive turtles that are all armored up. They have, armored plates strapped onto them, and people sat on the backs with, harpoon guns and, things like that. So basically, like a living battle tank, essentially.
That's so sweet.
And piled up on the centers of these turtles are indeed quite a few goods. It appears to be, different raw goods, whether it's, precious metals or stones or food or, whatever else. There's a variety of goods. And then, some of the turtles also do have groups of figures that appear to be tied up and are kind of like huddled toward the center of the turtles as well. And then finally in the back is another column of warriors. So in all, like a rough head count, probably around 200 to 300-ish warriors, which is probably more than the population of your entire island.
Yeah, Mononoi's gonna ask, where do you raid? Where do you find peoples in such quantities?
Well, there are cities and other settlements all over the ocean. I mean, the ocean is so much bigger and has so much more life than the surface. You guys are, mostly huddled on your little rocks in the middle of the ocean and, occasionally go out to travel between them. But here, and she just kind of like does a 360 pointing all around. Just look at how much space we have.
Oh my God, where are the bumpkins?
No, land civilizations are massively outnumbered by the aquatic civilizations.
And it seems like also like behind in technology.
To your experience to this point, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is actually true, but from your character's perspective, it certainly would be.
Okay.
Mononoe is starting to do some calculations in her head of land and fish people, and it's starting to think that this may be a strategic threat to all land people.
Well, luckily for you, most aquatic creatures do not do well on land.
Yeah, as of yet.
That's true. You just need to get some really intelligent squids with rebreathers, and you're toast.
Exactly. We'd be dead.
Once they discover how to make a fishbowl and put it on their heads, it's over.
What Mononoe's saying, man. Or at least thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, so as the front of the column approaches the border to the city, they are met by an honor guard of more of the soldiers that you've seen around the city. There are the equivalent, the underwater equivalent of fireworks and confetti, except it's like colored inks that spread out into the water, causing these bursts of light. And more luminescent creatures are brought along, creating a vibrant light show in the water around you. And the column is headed directly toward the massive tent in the center of the city. So Delphine says, "Yeah, see, they're headed toward the Connate tent. There they will give their tithe to the Khan from whatever it is that they've captured before they split it out amongst themselves."
Huh. What did we say about going to visit her mom? Does she know where she lives or whatever?
Are you asking out of character?
Yes, because I feel like we discussed it maybe last time.
Yeah.
Do
So
you
she
remember?
did. She said that her mother would be also in the giant tent in the center of the city.
Okay.
So that
Right,
is
right,
where
right.
y'all are headed.
This seems like the best. Yeah, this seems like the best time to start heading that way. Then.
Yeah, things might be a little simpler, honestly, if there's, things going on. All
I
right.
lead the way.
So, yeah, you guys are able to kind of like, make your way over toward the column. And it's moving fairly slowly. So if you want to, you guys can join the merrymakers that are kind of, celebrating in the peripheries of the column itself.
Totally. Let's try and blend.
All right. So it's pretty
Yeah, I
easy
feel
to
like we
do.
stand out a lot if we were just like going out of our way to not join the merrymakers. Like
Yeah.
that did like, well, who are these? Who are these people?
Yeah.
What's
Now,
their deal?
now
Should
as
we
you do
enslave
get
them? Should we
closer,
invade the overworld?
as you get closer, you can see that the people on the column are keeping a close eye on, the people around the column. A few urchins have to have their hands slapped away as they're trying to steal things. And there are, a lot of stern looks to go around. But you are easily able to make your way up to the column, and so you can get a close-up look at the goods that they've returned with, as well as the warriors themselves. None of them would quite put Akalupu to shame, at least at the part of the column you're in at this point. So Akalupu, you can feel confident in your musculature still. But the various warriors are, very impressive specimens. And they, are either, joining in on the song or are just, giving looks out to the crowd and keeping an eye on things. The armored turtles are, even more intimidating close up, as you can see that one of these turtles could easily bite a person in half. And they often have steel plates that, are like on masks so that they have even sharper bites. Like it's sharpened on these lower and upper plates that if it bites something, it would just slice through it. They have blades attached onto their flippers as well. So, you have to keep a bit of a distance from the column just in case you got clipped by something. And piled onto the backs of these turtles is more wealth and riches. Even just a single one of these turtles has more wealth and riches than any of you has seen or been able to imagine in your entire lives. And that part of the column kind of passes by, and you do see a couple of the turtles that are escorting what you assume to be future slaves and or prisoners. And it is these creatures are kind of like humanoid squid creatures. So rather than being, just like the cephalopod body / head with tentacles, instead they have more of a humanoid figure where the head itself has the kind of like bulbous squid body part that I don't know what they're called, and then instead of hands and feet, they have tentacles. They're really odd creatures, definitely not something that you've ever seen before. And they are looking around pretty nervously at their why does that sound wrong? I think that's correct though. They're looking
No, that's
around and
correct.
are clearly
Nervously.
quite nervous about their situation. Doesn't seem that they are familiar with their surroundings either.
Mononoi's gonna look at Akalupu and go, I think those are the slaves. Or, the soon-to-be slaves. I guess Akalupu just stares at it.
Akalu was just like, yeah, and
He's a man of few words.
Muted. Akalupu kind of nods seriously, but also kind of shifts uncomfortably. Happy that he feels like he could take at least one of these warriors on, but the whole idea of like being taken away as a slave makes him very uncomfortable because he may or may not have a bit of like separation anxiety.
yep.
May or may not.
All right. And as Akalupu is looking uncomfortably at that, he manages to accidentally lock eyes with what looks like a fairly young member of the slaves, a pink colored squid creature. And you guys kind of lock eyes for a few uncomfortable moments before the turtle continues to swim its way past.
Akalupu feels like he needs to make a will save to not just like enter rage mode.
Do you want to make a roll?
I feel like I need to.
I love the honesty.
Let's see. 22.
All right. So you're definitely quite affected. The fear and sadness in the squid person's eyes do get to you, but you're even though you probably are have your fists kind of balled up and your nails are digging into your palms, you're able to keep your composure.
Nice. Although maybe definitely trying to figure out if there's a way to break out the slaves, but also not sure if that would just like kill the entire group.
Right. Also realizing that it would be us against an army of thousands. Didn't you say thousands?
The right now, like the soldiers in the column is probably around 200 to 300.
Oh, okay. Still, those are not good odds.
No, even assuming that they are significantly lower level than you, which is assuming a lot, it would still probably not end well.
Yeah. So he's not doing anything yet, but imagining it. Definitely in his mind's eye, he's murdering some folks.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, you guys are, partially following along the column, partially just, letting them pass. They're moving quite a bit faster than you are, unless you want to really, try to push your way through the crowd. So eventually the column does disappear entirely inside of the tent, probably about 5-ish minutes before you get there. And soon after, you find yourselves at the entrance to this massive underwater tent. The whole thing is held up inside. You're expecting it's a tent, right? So you expect like poles and whatnot. But no, the interior of the tent is actually cordoned off into various different what would be the sections. By these film membranes that make basically like various bubbles of interconnecting segments.
Are the membranes opaque, or can You like
Um,
see through them.
they are semi-transparent, so you can see some light and some movement through them, but not full detail. And there are openings in them. It's not like people are just swimming through the membranes themselves. There are openings where you would go through between areas, and those you could obviously see through just fine.
Gotcha.
So Delphine says, "Well,
Mono is going to ask, go up to, as they're swimming along, she's going to say, how do you guys create these walls? Curtains?
so you're talking about the membranes inside the tent?
Yeah.
Well, these are grown, I guess, rather than made.
Oh.
They're a form of algae that grows down here. They're live in colonies, and so over the years, I guess they have been encouraged to grow in these shapes, and the tent has been kind of put up around them. And you do see, here and there, there's probably like a slave or two that's like trimming sections of the walls, scraping them
Mono
with
is going to
knives and whatnot.
keep her eye out and kind of see what, kind of see if she can glean some of the process.
What you can see is basically what I've described. So there's, the walls, they seem to be some sort of semi-opaque, and Delphine has described them as an algae, and you can see people that are, scraping and trimming at sections of them.
Interesting. So your mom lives in this big tent?
Yeah. It's a bit of a complicated situation. So I guess I don't know how to start, so I guess I should just say it all. I mentioned that my father was killed. Well, he was the former Khan, so I am, what did you say the unicorns called it? A princess?
But I am concerned about where this is going. If this is a slave culture, with what happens to the Khan's wives when the Khan dies.
Do you say anything, or is that just out of character?
I meant, we're like, you're a princess, right?
We're tracking.
And then, yeah, it is. I guess it was out of character to be like, oh God.
So yeah, my mother is, what did you, the queen? Was that the right title?
Sure. It seems like it's going to be more complicated than that, but yes, for our purposes, we would call her a queen.
Yes. But yeah, she's, we would call her one of the matriarchs.
So I'm going to ask, so now, is she married to the new Khan? Or does he maybe own her in some way?
Oh, no, he doesn't own her. She's not a slave, but yes, she did choose to stay as one of the matriarchs, one of the wives of the Khan.
Making a note in my mind, not saying this out loud, to explain the word concubine to her later.
So anyway, yes, she should be somewhere either in the court or in the women's quarters.
So you being the daughter of the old Khan, are you welcome here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just didn't know if you're seen as like some sort of threat.
Right, usurper.
Well, the new
Yeah.
con doesn't exactly like me very much. To be honest, that's part of the reason I had gone out hunting for treasure when I got captured, was just to get out of the city and away from all of this for a while, but that ended up being a bit more than I was expecting.
So it seems like you're saying, like, you're using the plural, matriarchs, but the guards at the front, like, recognized you by sight. Are there a lot of, daughters and sons of Khans, either past or present, what we would call princes and princesses?
I don't know what you mean by a lot. There's probably a couple dozen of us.
Okay.
I have, well, I was an only child. I suppose I have a brother now, or half brother.
Mm.
And then, I have a few half siblings. She kind of like does a mental tally. 5 in total. And then the new Khan brought in his children as well. So, I think there's, like I said, probably a couple dozen of us now.
Okay. So enough that it's totally reasonable that people would recognize you at the front, but
Yeah,
you're not like...
and well, part of the reason that the new con dislikes me is I do, well, stand out, I guess.
Yeah, stand out how?
Well, there was the whole, and she waves her hand and does water magic, that thing.
Right.
And, just always been a bit different, I guess. And often not in good ways. Or at least not in ways that were appreciated.
So, how kind of going back to my old question. Are you in any like danger being here?
I shouldn't be, unless the Khan is willing to break all of the taboos and rules of our society, at which point he would not be Khan for long.
Well, I don't know. He's gonna think in her head. That doesn't mean we're safe. Gonna give a knowing look at Akalupu, like, so be ready for some possible shenanigans. Akalupu just gives that vacant, dead stare back.
Akalupu is always ready for shenanigans. Usually on
Exactly. Aklupu was born ready.
precisely.
All right. Well, are we ready to go in? I mean, if you guys would be more comfortable, you can wait out here while I find my mother.
No, I think it would be very educational for y'all. Went in.
Yeah, strength in numbers.
We
It'll
got
be
your back.
posse, your entourage.
All right. Thank you. I actually appreciate that a lot. All right, so she swims up toward one of the entrances and, is, briefly halted by a guard, but, similar to when you guys entered the city, shortly after he sees Delphine, he salutes and says, "My lady," and gestures for her to continue through, and then kind of raises an eyebrow at the rest of you guys, and she says, "Oh, don't worry, they can come through, they're with me."
I raise an eyebrow right back.
He gives you the stink eye, but he lets you pass. And yeah, so you go through into the interior of the Khanate tent, and it's To say it's a bit of a maze would be an understatement. It is massively a maze. As soon as you're inside, you lose almost all sense of direction, as you can no longer see, the which way is up, which way is down. There are, the different passageways between these segments of the internal building seem to be just at random angles. It's an absolute nightmare. Luckily, Delphine seems familiar. And she does stop and, asks one of the slaves briefly, where her mother is. And the slave points a direction, and Delphine says, oh, she must be in the central throne room. Or not throne room. What would it be called? The court. And so you guys, stick together so as not to get lost. And before too long, you find yourselves entering the largest of any of the bubbles that you've been in so far. Just the throne room is probably the size of like half your village, probably not quite that big, but it's massive. Far bigger than any of the buildings in your village. It could easily fit Manawanui's tower inside of it. And you can see the area is extremely busy right now. The turtles were stopped outside as they can't fit inside of the tent, but all of the goods and slaves have been unloaded, and at this point are arrayed in the throne room. And there's a lot of activity and excitement as there are studious-looking merfolk who are picking through the goods and seem to be divvying things out. And you can see toward the center of it, there is a very regal-looking mermaid with long red hair and a very full figure, who seems to be somewhat presiding over the current goings on. And Delphine kind of hesitates for a moment before, heading more out into the open and toward the figure. And for a few seconds, nothing happens, but then the figure seems to, glance in Delphine's direction, look away, and then suddenly double take. And you can see the two of them go swimming at full speed toward each other, and embrace and smile. How close are you guys staying? Are you mostly on the outskirts, or are you kind of also just swimming into the mess of it?
I think we should stay on the outskirts.
Yeah,
I think that observe and then act is the best solution, or best option, as opposed to trying to stay close to Delphine necessarily. I think that's maybe going to draw too much attention.
All right. So you can't hear too much of what's going on. You can easily tell from the way that they're acting that, it's a bit of a tearful reunion. You can, hear a bit of the mother going, oh, Delphine, I was terrified after you just disappeared. I was worried that, and whatnot. And Delphine's, crying and saying, it's fine, mother. These nice people rescued me, and, etc. And you can see them, very, very happy to be reunited. But their tearful reunion is somewhat cut short when the blare of conch shells being sounded go off, and suddenly the entire area goes quiet. And over at the opposite end of the court, you can see they call those where they hang beads to divide a door. Anyway, basically one of those, a curtain of shells, we'll say, on strings are pulled aside, and a large and imposing merman steps through. Well, he doesn't step through. He swims through. He has short black hair that is pulled back into a ponytail, probably 4 or 5 inches long. He has a variety of scars across his body, and he looks incredibly mean. But he steps into the room and is announced. The Khan has arrived. Everyone, well, I don't know what you would do as the equivalent of bowing underwater. Whatever the equivalent of bowing underwater is, everyone kind of like stands still and bends at the middle, I guess. And the guy approaches, and Dolphine and her mother kind of separate and are also bowing. And he approaches the treasure and kind of like pokes through it boredly for a moment, and then just waves at everyone nonchalantly, like, go about your business. And it is then that he seems to notice his wife and stepdaughter, and with a rather unpleasant sneer, he slithers toward them. Ah, I see the renegade has returned to the fold. Yes, Your Highness. Yeah. And he looks back at you guys, and he says, I assume you brought these creatures?
I knew we weren't far enough back.
Mostly you just stand out, even being kind of far back. I mean, Dolphine said the closest thing she could even think of to call you was swamp monsters. You don't look like anything else here. And
still, I'm indignant.
As you should be. And she says, yes, they saved me. Saved you? Saved you from what exactly? Well, I was captured. Yes, and well, Cocoa Biters were bringing me to a kraken. And at this, if it wasn't quiet before, at this point, you could hear a needle drop if they dropped underwater. And he looks infuriated, and he waves to some guards and says, bring them here. And so 4 very burly looking mermen kind of peel off from his immediate guard and come over toward you guys. And they rather roughly start pushing you toward the Khan.
Monoanui is going to give a look to Akalupu, to Junior, I should say, that says, it's chill. Let's not cause trouble just yet, but you'll know. If all that could be summed up into a look, that's the look.
Oh yeah. Y'all have spent enough time living together that I think that gets through pretty clearly for Akalupu. All right, so you guys are pushed in closer to the Khan, and throughout this, you've noticed that Dolphine's mother seems to have gotten kind of nervous. Before she was very self-assured. Like I said, she kind of was presiding over things before the Khan arrived. But at this point, she seems to, her shoulders are much more slumped, and she seems to be kind of just like trying to disappear into the background a little bit. The Khan, though, is glaring at Dolphine and grabs her by one of her arms and spins her around to face you guys and says, "Well now, what do you all have to say for yourselves? I suppose I have you to thank for rescuing the princess here. What even are you?"
Just humble swamp monsters
Hmm.
from afar.
Would you like to roll deception?
Monitoring would love to roll deception. Let's see. Deception. Plus 10. We got this. Maybe. Alright. Let's see.
It's just keeping his mouth shut.
Let me see if there's something I can, Nope. Alright. Deception. Here we go. Oh, 20. Not a nat 20, but a 20.
All right, let's see how that does.
I
He
thought I mentioned
does.
swamp people instead of swamp monsters.
Yes, you can amend it to swamp people.
Yeah.
What do they roll to detect? Here we go. Lie. Deception check against their perception DC. Okay. What is his perception? It is a 12. Well, luckily for you, he just rolled a 1.
Nice. He fully bought it.
He's drunk.
He's
He
like,
might be.
I know the swamp people, of course.
So he kind of
And
just
he's
like
just racist against swamp people. So as soon as you say that, he's like, ugh, not gonna look any farther into this.
yeah, he definitely, does curl back a lip in disgust, and he says, "Swamp people. Well, I don't believe we've ever seen your kind here before. Where is it that you hail from?"
The swamps.
Duh.
Yes, as I hail from the ocean. I do not appreciate your tone. Now, I will ask one more time. Where do you hail from?
We only know of our own swamp. It's a great far away from here.
A swamp. Would
Yes,
that
I'm
make
unfamiliar.
you surface dwellers? I don't believe we have
No.
swamps in the ocean.
No, swamps are these like intermediate places. So, we've had dealings.
He just
with
holds
surface
up a
folk.
hand at he does not care.
There.
He turns back to Delphine. You drew the attention of a kraken. You brought outsiders to our city, and surface dwellers at that. And, well, you
Guy's
see,
racist against brackish water.
I know.
well, you see, and he just holds up his hand again. Delphine. I have put up with you for quite some time, but I think this has to be by far too much. And Delphine, kind of like wrings her hands and looks toward her mother. But her mother at this point, is like just even further faded into the background.
Gee, thanks, Mom.
And so she just like, she looks around. She's clearly not sure what to say. And you can see inside of her a mixture of both being like worried and just progressively more and more upset. And he starts going on this tirade of, everything that she's done wrong. And, at first she's got her head hung as he's going over, and this day you did that thing. And only 2 months ago, you released a slave without the express permission of its owner. And, going on and on. And you can see like her fists are starting to ball up. And, finally, it seems that she's had enough. And she looks up and suddenly, before you've seen her activate her aura before, and I've kind of described how it looks where like, a frozen wave, of crystallizes behind her. But now suddenly, you see her aura flare up, and not only does it have that, but flames are dancing about throughout it, lighting up the entire thing, somehow burning under the water. And
Mono, I knew he was going to take a step back.
Yeah, indeed. And she, you can see as soon as this happens, everyone in the room lets out a shocked gasp. Many of these people have probably never even seen fire before, for obvious reasons. What they might have seen would have been, like underwater volcanic vents or things like that. They never would have seen this before. And she takes a step forward. Her voice is rough and full of emotion, and she says, "You shouldn't even be gone." And you can, her voice is like croaking at this point. And even the Khan actually, seems surprised and somewhat afraid. You can see fear across his eyes at this, display. And the fire, and she takes another step forward. "You poisoned my father. You cheated," and takes another step forward. At this point, the fires are starting to stream out. Her hair is actually waving in the water and has fire mixed in with it, where similar to her aura, which is a mixture of water and fire, her green hair is waving as if it were liquid, and then fire is spreading through it without damaging her. And there's more fire coming off of her hands. And she takes a final step forward, and she looks like she's about to say something when she suddenly breaks down into a coughing fit, and her aura disappears around her. And she just kind of like collapses, coughing and choking. And at this, the Khan, finally regains his composure, and a wicked sneer goes across his face as he sees he now has nothing to fear from her, as Dolphine kind of like shrinks down, and he goes up to her, and he slaps her across the face, sending her spinning several feet through the water. And he says, "You bitch,
Oh my
you
gosh.
dare in my own court accuse me of such things? Well, I suppose now, if I didn't have enough reason before, I certainly do now." And he waves one of the people who have been trailing him around toward him, and one of the more studious looking merfolk comes up, and he says, "Let it be written. Dolphine is hereby stripped of all titles, of all rights. She is banished from the tribe. She is banished from her place here among her people." And he turns toward Dolphine. "You are no longer a princess. You are no longer a mermaid. Or one of the merfolk.
Wow.
You are no longer a part of this great Khanate. All of your titles, all of your possessions, all of your rights are hereby revoked. If I ever see your face again, then you had better have an army behind you large enough to set me quivering in my scales, or else you shall be executed on the spot. Now go!" And Dolphine, at this point, still coughing, crying, it's underwater, but whatever. You can tell she is just like sobbing. If she had any makeup, it would be ruined at this point. She takes another look toward her mother, who at this point is, looking down, and she's, you can see a young, probably around 3 or 4 year old merman. Or merfolk, merboy.
Merboy, yeah.
Probably around 3 or 4 year old merboy who has at some point swum up to her, and she's just holding him in her arms and, looking down. And Dolphine, opens her mouth as if to say something, but then as the Khan once again raises his hand, she shuts it, and immediately, just covering her face with her hands, she swims out of the room at full speed.
Oh crap, y'all.
Let's go get her.
Yeah, we're gonna try. That's.
I'm gonna give the room the stink eye before we leave, but yeah,
I'm grabbing Mako by the arm and pulling her with us.
because I am so furious about this fight with her stepdad. Like, I am 17 years old, and this is the greatest injustice I have ever seen. But I'm not gonna try and fight a whole room full of people.
All right, so you follow behind. Dolphine, clearly just like not even thinking about you guys at this point, is just going full speed out as quickly as she can. You guys do your best to keep up with her, but you don't even make it halfway out before she's just disappeared. So
Do we even know the way out? You said it's like labyrinthine in here.
it is indeed quite labyrinthine. So if someone would like to roll, what would that be? Survival, I think, to try and make your way out, or you could ask someone.
I'm gonna roll survival.
And multiple people can roll survival if you'd like to.
We got a 28. We can't trust the people here. Look, y'all. I think our best security has just flown the coop, so to speak. I think we need to get back to the ship as expeditiously as possible. If we find Delphine, that's awesome. If not, just Sam. We already had one of us almost became a slave. Let's not wait around.
Are you really suggesting we just leave her after that?
I'm saying on our way out, we look for her.
Shouldn't we go to the rock where we said we'd all, or the tent we said we'd all meet at?
Go to the giant purple tent. But I assume that's on our way since we left that direction to come to the main tent. If my sense of direction is still not topsy-turvy from being in a 3-dimensional space.
And the crab is moving. So what was the plan to even get back to the boat?
Yeah,
Did we need Delphine for that? Or
this is a great
no?
point.
Yeah, because you definitely will have moved a decent ways. You haven't been here super long. It's still the same day that you left, but you are going to be quite a ways away from it, and visibility on the ocean is somewhat limited.
Well, let's decide all this once we get out of the palace. I think that's priority number 1.
Yeah, fair enough. I grumble.
Mono and we got a 28.
All right. Yeah, so with a 28, you somehow actually do manage to remember your way out. You're like, I remember that weird lamp.
Them left and right.
Because she's a suspicious ass hoe, and it comes in handy all the time.
Exactly. But yeah, so you do manage to find your way out. And, you're...
Thomas, how does heightened spells work? Like, what level do I have to be to reach heightened 5th on a level 3 spell?
I believe for cleric, you automatically heighten your spells to the highest level that you have available. And let's see, you need. You're asking when you would get 5th level spells. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm not able to cast a 5th heightened spell because I'm level 5.
Yes. Let's see. Does it say what level you would have you need to get to it? I mean, it's going to be more than 5 because spell levels and character levels do not match.
Dang. Okay,
Let's see.
that sucks because otherwise I would have a spell called Locate that I could cast on Dolphine in particular.
Yeah. I would have to look at the
Oh,
actual.
but I could cast it on Dolphine's necklace.
You could.
Oh my god, after you guys just had the beginning of this episode had a conversation about her necklace. That's foreshadowing, babe.
It's Chekhov's necklace.
All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna use my talisman to cast any spell that I want that's not prepared, and cast Locate on Dolphine's necklace.
Because we've exited the palace now, or I guess maybe palace isn't the right word, but you get it. And she's not just around, right? Should we like perception check before he does this?
Yeah, you can perception check if you'd like to.
I'm gonna perception check with my goggles, which give me I think just a +1. Yes, a +1. 21.
All right. You do not see Dolphine.
And I got an 11, so I also don't see Dolphine.
Yeah, you're too blind with rage at the moment.
Yeah. My emotions are clouding my vision. Being 17 is the hardest job in the world.
True that. All right. So Ip, you cast your spell and you are able to locate it. It seems to be somewhere down and clockwise on the big tent. So it's leading like toward the shell of the crab and some ways to the would that be? If we're assuming that the back of the crab is north, then it would be like you have the select tool. There we go. Like this way. What? Maybe the crab's body. What I meant to do. Yeah. Assuming
Guys,
y'all are
follow
kind of
me.
like in the middle, it's like over this direction.
I've got a lock on her necklace. It's this way.
All
Hurry.
right.
Let's go.
So you swim a little ways and you find that it seems to be leading you toward like a crack in the chitin of the crab that is near, like, mostly hidden underneath the tent. You kind of have to like pull up on one of the flaps to see it.
Wow, we never would have found this.
All right, and yeah, as you pull up the flap and assume start heading down, it is not long before you do hear sobbing coming from up ahead.
Dolphine!
Yeah, I'm calling out.
All right. So yeah, you go in, and it is not a large area. In fact, Akalupu literally can't fit in the entrance, because he's too big. That boy too thick.
Can't steal my life.
But yeah, the rest of you are able to like squeeze through, and as you go in, you can kind of see There are like a few little lamps with glowing objects at the ends of them going in, and it seems like a little like hidden hideout essentially. Like the way that everything is set up, though, it's like something like a kid would set up. You know, there are some toys around and various objects of little worth to anyone, but amusement. And sitting all the way at the very back, kind of like huddled in a corner, with her arms wrapped around the part of her tail that would be her knees, and her face just like buried down in the tail. Delphine is just like loudly sobbing. And as you guys call out her name and announce yourselves as you're entering, she does slowly look up and turn around, and her eyes are very reddened at this point, and she's just like, seems like she's trying to talk but can't stop like sobbing for long enough to say anything. But finally she goes, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to leave you behind like that.
I'm gonna go try and sit by her and put my arm around her, but I don't know if she'll accept it.
She does seem quite receptive to it.
Okay, yeah.
So she'll just like lean her face over onto your shoulder and resume trying.
Don't worry about that now. That guy sucks. He's a jerk, and he sucks so bad.
Yeah. I meant what I said, too. He cheated when he challenged my father. There's no way he could have defeated him in a fair fight. He poisoned him so that when they fought, it seemed like my father was just too old and tired, but we were never able to prove it, though.
That doesn't surprise me at all, because that guy sucks.
So she seems to be kind of like calming down a little bit. And she kind of looks around, and it's like, I used to come here a lot, when I needed to be alone. Nobody else knew about this place. Except for Father, but he couldn't fit in. He was too big. And she kind of chuckles sadly at that.
So, what does it mean that you've been stripped of all your rights? Does that mean you can be like arrested on the street, or?
Well, it means that, well, as far as the tribe is concerned, I'm no longer, one of the merfolk, I should actually have come up with a tribe name. I didn't think about that either. We'll just call it the Khanate. We're no longer part of the Khanate. If you haven't noticed, all of the soldiers here are merfolk. The Khan is always a merfolk. We have certain rights that other species don't.
What rights are those?
I just described them.
Yeah, just
Well,
live in the city and like move about freely and stuff.
I mean, other species are generally welcome here as long as they follow the rules, and so many are brought in as slaves, but a slave is only a slave for 10 years, so eventually they can either choose to leave, or many of them choose to stay here and make their lives. But only merfolk are allowed to rule and be warriors or carry weapons inside the city limits.
Can non-merfolk challenge the king?
Now, you can challenge the king. You can't try to become Khan, though. As I said, only merfolk are allowed that position. And
Well, screw him.
in any of
You
the
don't need
years,
this.
no one has ever, no non-merfolk has ever been able to defeat a sitting con. But yeah, we should probably leave.
Yeah, you should come back with us to our boat. We already talked about that. We would love to have you along on our adventure.
Yeah, it seems there's not much for me here now. She looks around. He said he took all of my possessions, but I'm not giving up my my necklace or my conch. But it's probably too late to try and go to my quarters and get any of my other belongings. And he certainly was no idle threat when he said if he ever sees my face again, I'll be executed.
Well, best get you out of here.
We'll get you new stuff. Don't worry about it.
Get you better
No.
stuff.
It wasn't a waste of a trip because now your mother knows that you're alive, which I guess is worth something.
Yeah. I can't bring myself to hate her for abandoning me like that. I mean, she is my brother as much as I hate that little turd to look after. But that did hurt. And we should go quickly, though. And the longer we stay here, the more likely something is to go wrong. Thank you all. I'm so sorry that I brought you all into this mess.
Don't even mention it. So about getting back. How do we do that exactly? Because I know the city has been moving. I don't think our ship has been moving with it.
No, but we should be able to find it fairly easily. Did you guys set it all the way down on the water, or are you still flying? Because a flying pink ship is going to be fairly easy to spot from a distance.
I think we just kind of left that to the discretion of
Burn bright.
Burn Bright.
All right. I don't know. He would have just left it wherever you guys left it. His plan is just to catch a
Soak
tan
up the sun.
yeah, he's just tanning on board in his underwear, so he's not
I don't
planning
see
to
why
do
we would
anything
have.
productive.
Yeah, I don't see why we would have put it down on the water. And, like, I want to be like, oh, we probably talked about it with Delphine and how we would get back, but we didn't do that, so...
Yeah, but it's not
if we
gonna
didn't
be
do
it's not
that-
gonna be too hard. You just need to backtrack the way that it's fairly easy to tell which way the crab has been going, at least for Delphine.
Right.
So you'll just backtrack a ways until you can spot the boat.
Perfect. Let's get out of here. Maybe we'll see if Ip can make you some fish ice cream when we get home.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awful. Ugh. All right, so horrifying anchovy ice cream aside, yeah, you guys do get out of there. It seems that either news spreads fairly slowly or the guards don't care too much. You are able to pass back out of the city fairly easily. As you guys are passing over the very, outer ring of the city, a certain hammer-headed shark fellow does wave and wink at Ip as you pass by. But otherwise, you guys make it out easily enough and are swimming back up to the surface. Delphine, at one point, does warn you guys not to surface too quickly. She says, well, some people who get to the surface too quickly, they get what's called the bends. It seems that, leaving the pressure of the water too quickly is not good for you. So, toward the end, you have to be fairly slow about surfacing. But eventually you do make it to the surface. and find that it is evening. A beautiful golden red sunset is just currently off to your west, and it is silhouetting your boat picturesquely as you swim back over there, and we will leave it at that for today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and wrap up. As always, let's start with Anna. What has Akalupu Jr. learned today?
Akalupu Jr. has learned that he sometimes can actually control his temper.
Well, and this was a good time to be able to, even though perhaps at some point, you could bring back the threat he brought in, return with an army.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like they might deserve it a little bit.
Yup.
All right. Next, let's do Ip. What has he learned?
Ip learned that all dads are assholes.
I mean, in Ip's experience so far, it does seem to be a pretty consistent. Either their dad was an asshole and then abandoned them, or was just Akalupu and then abandoned them. All right.
Just adding that to Jason's character sheet, like, does not trust dads.
Daddy issues. Oh wait, that may be poor phrasing. All right. Next up, what about Mono Inui? What has she learned?
Mono Inui learns that in a fast-changing political environment, it pays to be. I forgot the word Molly used.
Oh, a suspicious asshole.
That's right. It pays to be a suspicious asshole.
There you go.
It really does come in handy all the time.
Right? Now, Mono
I guess that's how
Inui
you
does
wind up living, what is it, 100 years, 150 years, whatever it is.
I think, what is Mono Inui now? Because by the time last generation, you would have been like about the same age as everyone else. Because you, like, age-wise were the same. You just physically were always smaller. So around like 18 at that point. And then between that generation and this one was probably another 20, maybe 30 years. So probably around like 50. 40 or 50?
Something like that. She's seen a few things.
Yeah, even though, to be fair, generally Mono Inui causes herself more trouble than good with how close she plays everything to the chest. As
seriously, like,
as evidence,
it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, like every mission.
Right? One time
but that 1 step forward, we just can't ignore.
Yeah, sometimes she gets you safely out of
the palace.
Exactly. Sometimes she gets you safely out of a palace full of angry mermaids, and sometimes she ends up crying tears of blood and unconscious for 3 days. Trade-offs.
Right.
Nobody's perfect.
Look, Mono Inui's only died like at most once.
Oh, it's more than the 1 finger now. It started to spread.
She stopped using the book ever since then.
Yeah, but it had already spread to where it was like all of the finger, part of the palm of your hand, and had started up a 2nd finger.
Don't worry about it. It's all okay.
All right, and last but not least, what did Mako learn?
Yeah, I feel like Jason kind of stole mine, but pop punk voice. Parents just don't understand.
Right, especially
suck.
Right, especially your evil stepfather who literally murdered your father.
Yeah, you're not my real dad. Get out of here.
She just refuses to call him dad. She calls him dude instead.
What's up, Mark?
Exactly. Alrighty. Well, thanks everyone for joining me. I hope you all had a good game. I know I did, and I will see you all at the next one. Bye.